when we were young, my brother and I remember my mom telling us like, Mom, we want this GI Joe, and she look at us and be like, you want the GI Joe or you want your milk before you go to bed tonight? Because I can't afford both.
This is gonna hurt. It's time for the Suffering Podcast. The realization of life's true meaning and the clarity that seems to follow comes at a cost of an expensive education. Dreams are born in darkness, and suffering can either be motivation or destruction. Using pain is a skill that takes a lifetime to learn. The raw nerve of childhood is quickly calloused over by trauma and a hard life. Either we become numb, or we inflict that numbness so that pain doesn't break our soul. We become comfortable inside the daily chaos of all we know. All at once, the sun begins to shine on our face, and we're able to shed our past. We find new life and new hope in a mission, trying to make sure that others do not follow our path. We may be born in fire, but that doesn't mean we need to burn for eternity. I'm Kevin Donaldson, always here with Mike Fillets. Joining me tonight will be Tom Flynn, and welcome to the Suffering Podcast. If you're a fan of overcoming adversity and overcoming suffering, then we're for you, because that's what we do here, and that's the stories that we highlight. So do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, please comment. Now you can join, and also ring the bell so you can get notified of all of our new content. Follow us on all social media so you can find out what we're up to. And on tonight's episode of the Suffering Podcast, a weary traveler from 234 Franklin Avenue in Nutley, and that is Gustavo Gutierrez. I'm not even going to try to roll my R's because it doesn't work. Thanks so much for coming in, brother.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And tonight we're going to talk about the suffering of being a chef. There's a lot of stuff and a lot of different traumas and suffering that you went through in order to get to where you are today, but I'm proud of you for where you are today. So we'll get into that in just a moment. Before we get into anything, let's throw a big shout out to our marquee sponsor. That's Toyota of Hackensack. We don't trust anybody as police or podcasters, but we do trust Toyota of Hackensack. So go to toyotahackensack.com, let them find you a car. So Gus, each week, we take a question from our audience. This week's question comes from Stenopool. If you could be any age for the rest of your life, what would you choose?
Where I'm at right now.
Where are you at? Explain it.
Well, it took my whole life for me to get here. And I feel like I'm at the point in my life where I'm the person I always wanted to be. I got a little girl at home. I got a good woman by my side. Put up with all the shit I put her through up until this point. I own now 3 companies that are vertically integrated. I'm in a good spot. I don't play the if I would have done this different. I didn't do anything different. And everything that I did got me to where I'm at. And right now I'm very happy where I'm at. Not to say that I don't want more, I don't want to grow more, right?
Hopefully in the next 10 years, you'll be able to say, I'm right where I want to be in 10 years. Exactly. That's that constant growth.
Exactly.
You never want to be that person who looks back, who peaked in high school or peaked in college and say, I wish I was that age again.
Yeah. You're sitting on a bar stool on a Tuesday talking about, I used to throw a pigskin 400 yards. It's like, dude, nobody cares.
Be the Al Bundy of the bar.
Yeah.
Tom, what do you think?
So, I think I feel like giving the lawyer answer almost. I think it's splitting the baby. If I could be, you know how they say that youth is wasted on the young. If I could be 27 and have that type of adventurous spirit with the wisdom I have now, the wisdom I gained, I think, puts me in a good place. But I'd like to split the baby and be 27, but have the knowledge and experience I do now.
Wish my body was 27, that's for certain.
Yeah, that was a good time.
So I got 50 years of experience, and you know how long it took me to get 50 years experience? It took me 50 years to get that experience. And I fought and I struggled, and there were good times and there were bad times. Right now, we've had some recent setbacks and some recent tragedies, but I wouldn't trade it for the world, because I'm a big believer, especially in the place that I am right now, the age that I am right now. Everything that was put in front of me was put in front of me for a reason, and I had to experience all that stuff in order to get me to where I am today. Hopefully, like with you, in 10 years, I'll be able to say the same thing. So I never want to walk back and say, oh, yeah, remember when I used to do podcasts and things were going well? I don't want to be that person. I always have to look forward. I have to look. It's kind of like, what are you doing now?
100%.
you watch a lot of retired athletes, right? Retired athlete will retire. They're in top-notch shape while they're playing. Look at them 10 years in the future. They're fat. They're overweight. They got all sorts of medical conditions. They can hardly walk. And they'll sit there and talk about when I was playing, when I was doing this, and I hit 300 home runs, or I scored 10 touchdowns, or whatever I did. I never want to be that guy. I want to be that guy. I look back with fondness and sometimes lament on some of the things that I've done. But I own them. I did them. I was there. And I'm very happy, like you. I'm very happy where I am right now. It took me a lifetime to get here.
I have called the 24-hour rule. Within reason, right? Some things are going to take longer than 24 hours to get over, but I celebrate for 24 hours. I'm upset for 24 hours. That's my limit.
You put a time frame. Smart.
Once I wake up, yesterday's win is not today's win. We got to get back to work.
So I've started doing that as well. I put times on my grief, and everything has a different time. My grief for Mike is going to last a while, and I know it's going to last a while.
That's what I meant by, like, you're not going to get over that in 24 hours, right? But like, if you got into a car accident yesterday, like, fuck it, go get a new car today. You know what I mean? Like,
if somebody walked in here and stole a couple of our challenge coins, the way I used to be is I used to be upset at that for weeks, but now I'm like, okay, Kevin, you have 5 minutes to get it out, to be upset about this. And then guess what? After that 5 minutes, you have to let it go, because otherwise it's going to eat you alive. Now,
most expensive real estate is the one in your mind.
Yeah, it's true. Now, if you ask me that about my kids, you ask me that same question about my kids, I'd love for my kids to be 3 and 5 years old, because they were fun, they were mobile, they wiped their own ass. I mean, all good stuff. And now they're teenagers, and, we still have a lot of good times, but we had a lot more back then.
You get something painted on your ceiling for every time they roll their eyes.
Oh,
look at.
Move your eyes, motherfucker. Well, Stenopool, thank you so much for sending that question in. Keep sending in your questions. We will try to get them on the air. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to visit 234 Franklin Avenue in Nutley. We know the guy there who owns it, Cub Cafe. It is one of the best restaurants, cafes, whatever you want to call it, homemade food. We just sent somebody over there. I happen to know the guy. You know him? You know the guy over there, Gus?
Yeah, he's all right, that guy.
He's all right. We just sent somebody over there, one of our guests, a couple shows back.
Great guy.
And he couldn't text me enough. He took care of me. He made this food for me. It was outrageously good. And he's an Atlanta boy, so he gets some of that good Southern cooking. So you have to sort of win him over to the Cuban side. So go to 234 Franklin Avenue. Go see Gus over at Cub Cafe. Great guy, great food. You'll love it. And tell him the Suffering Podcast sent you.
Absolutely.
So oddly enough, the guy we have in the studio, he looks a lot like Gus.
He sure does.
He looks a lot.
Everybody's got a doppelganger, and there he is.
But I couldn't be more grateful. You're one of my new connections who, people just come into your life at the right time.
100%.
And our meeting through Tom was funny, because you wanted me to come. You wanted me to try the food. And I didn't understand it until I got there. Meeting you it made it all worthwhile. The food was fantastic, and you accommodated my weird dietary rules.
We'll feed anybody.
But it was the way you cooked it. It was the method you cooked it, which makes it so much better. You cook everything healthy. It was amazing. I don't want to make this a whole hour commercial about Cub Cafe, but I can't say enough good things. I send people there all the time. I'm like, go see Gus. He's the man. He's the man.
I have this theory. I cooked at a very high level for about 15 years. I've worked with some of the greatest chefs in New York. I've worked at some of the most famous restaurants in New York. And I've realized is I'm not even in the food business. What makes me successful is that I'm not in the food business. I'm in the people business, right? The way I connect to people might be through food. It might be through coffee. It might be some guy that walks in and wants direction, or the male guy that needs to use the bathroom. You know what I mean? My gift is not necessarily cooking. Cooking is not a gift. Cooking is a skill. Nobody was born knowing how to cook. It's something that you need to work at to become good at. My ability to connect with people is a gift. That's something I've always had. Haven't always exercised it the best way, but it's a gift that I have, right? I can find common ground with anybody. I could walk through any neighborhood and not have a problem. Not because I'm a tough guy, because I'll find common ground with somebody and be like, oh, I like this guy. You know what I mean?
But there's 100 restaurants out there. There's 100 different restaurants. So You just answered the most important question. Why you? That's the answer right there.
Right. I tell my employees all the time, somebody comes in here 2-3 times a week and you don't know them on a first name basis, shame on you. Shame on you. Right? Because our job is to cater to people. I have at least 10, 15 people that walk in every single day, don't say a word to me. They're like, yo, hey, what's up, Gus? How you doing? By the time they walk in the door, I see them pulling up and I start preparing their order because I already know what they're going to get.
That's the Cheers philosophy.
Yeah, 100%.
So with this show Cheers, why go? Every place sells liquor. Every place sells draft beer or whatever you want. Why did they go there? Because every time Norm walked in, Norm,
right?
You know that's a big. I understand that, and I connect with that philosophy. But this doesn't come out of nowhere. This is probably something that you've cultivated throughout your life. So I know enough about you, but I want you to tell our audience a little bit about how you grew up.
Both of my parents are Cuban immigrants, came here. Obviously, they went to Miami because that's where all Cubans go. They met in Miami, moved up here, got married.
So they came over. Did they come over during like the Scarface era?
My dad did.
Your dad?
My dad came on the boats. Yeah, whenever Scarface plays, my mom goes, "Look out! You might see your father in the beginning." You know,
the banana boats, right?
Yeah. We call them the Marielitos. So like my dad, everybody would call him Marielito because that's a group of people that came over on the boats.
And they had it tough. Like there was no easy thing. The problem that the U.S. had with that is they say it in Scarface, Castro was shitting all over us. Mm-hmm. He was getting rid of his criminals, the people he didn't want, and he was allowing them to go. But here's what people miss.
You get grouped.
Here's what people miss. They're just like the inner cities, right? So the inner cities is full of criminals, but it's also full of really good people. On those boats, and I'm not even going to try to say that word that you said, the banana boats, there were criminals, but there were really good people as well, looking to have a better life. And that's something that's important about all immigration when it comes over.
100%. And one thing I always say, you'll never meet a Cuban that came to this country and is broke. You won't.
They're hardworking people.
We're hungry. Yeah. We're hungry. We know what it's like to go to sleep hungry. You know what I mean? And, you know, my parents got to a point where my dad owned his own business. My mom owned her own business. You know, when we were young, my brother and I remember my mom telling us, like, Mom, we want this G.I. Joe. And she'd look at us and be like, you want the G.I. Joe or you want your milk before you go to bed tonight? Because I can't afford both. And we'd always take the milk. You know what I mean? Like, all right, maybe G.I. Joe next time.
And then when you did get the G.I. Joe, how much more appreciation did you have for it?
Forget it. I mean, to this day, I don't throw away the stubs of soap. When the soap wears down, I save them and I stick them back together and make another one. Not because I have to, you know what I mean? But it's something that was embedded in us that we don't waste anything, right? And I also cook that way.
So did you ever meet a depression baby? So somebody who lived through the Great Depression in the U.S. My Aunt Phyllis was a depression, like she was a true depression baby. You go down in her basement, canned everything.
Yep.
Everything was canned.
There was a sale, right? That was my grandfather. It'd be like, yo, how many soda crackers you got in the closet? And I look at my grandma and be like, there was a sale. She's like, hey, you know, he doesn't pass up a sale. He goes, they don't go back. They don't expire for 5 years. He's got like 50 cans. You know what I mean? I mean, you want to talk about crafty. My grandfather had a beeper. My grandfather was the original Uber. And I grew up, I was 8, 9 years old. I remember sitting on his sofa. He walks in and goes, hey, ¿tú qué haces aquí? What are you doing here? I'm like, it's summer. What do you mean? Oh, you're not in school? I'm like, no, I'm on summer break. He goes, oh, you think you're going to sit around here? You're going to watch TV all day? Get your ass up. You're going to work with me. And I'm like, huh? My fingers are all yellow, eating Cheetos and shit, watching Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
Salute My Shorts. I used to watch. He's like, come on, we're going to work. I'm like, this is bullshit. But my grandfather was the one that taught me my work ethic, right? And I remember he was the original Uber. He used to hang out outside the A&P or any local supermarket, right? The A&P was like his main gig. So he used to hang out at the A&P and people were leaving, the old ladies would be like, taxi, taxi. Boom, and take them home and make me carry all their shit up 6 flights of steps, no elevator. But he had a pager. And so my grandma used to page him. He would call her from the payphone at the A&P, ring once and hang up. Everybody knew. All my cousins, everybody in my family knew. You never pick up on the first ring at grandma's house. At Mima's house, you never pick up on the first ring. Phone would ring once, he would hang up. She had the number to the payphone. So what would happen back in the day? You hang up, you get the coin back.
Yeah.
So she'd call him back, be like, hey, lunch is ready. Be like, I'll be right there. My man never paid for a phone call, ever. He recycled the same 25, 35 cents for like 10, 15 years.
Did you ever make a collect call and it's like, Bob, we got a baby, it's a boy. But so then they, or if you're on a payphone and you call and you went overtime and they try to call you back and get money, I'm like, yeah, right. Sure.
Dude, and you know, I'm like, it's a quarter. He goes, yeah, quarter, 5 times a day for how many years? He goes, it adds up.
But here's the point of that. So here's why Cubans as a immigration population became more accepted in this country, because they really embraced the American style, the American culture. They just wrapped it, because they came from shit like that. From what I hear about Cuba, from when they came over, I'm not talking 50s when mafia ruled it. When they came over, it was really bad. So they came here and they found that they really did find streets paved with gold. Not literal gold, but just a better life. And they really embraced the American culture and the American lifestyle. And that's what is so appreciative. The majority of Americans, when they see a population coming in, I see this with the Indian population. Hardworking people, great people, awesome people, family-oriented people. So they're not as friendly as we are, but they're doing right for their family. And I can appreciate that. And I think that's if you wanted to get into the whole immigration thing, I think that's what the problem with immigration is. People just want to come to this country and we want to see them work. That's it. We want to see them work and contribute to society. Cubans did that full force.
And the other thing is, you'll never hear a Cuban bitch. Like, a lot of people, like, I have some friends that are here from the UK and they're, oh, mate, this fucking country. I'm like, so go the fuck back to the UK.
Go home.
You're here for a reason, right? You'll never hear a Cuban say, oh, this country's turning to shit. Like, no, we know what a country is when it turns to shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we count our lucky stars. We're like, thank God we made it here. We're like, oh, the politicians corrupt. There's a fucking surprise.
Yeah.
Like, have you seen the Castros? Cuba now is worse than ever.
So
It's worse than ever right now.
That story that you tell about the using the quarter being the original Uber, how do you feel that played into sort of your entrepreneurial spirit, right? Because that could have taught you something at a young age, right?
100%. I mean, my grandfather, even my dad, you know, I remember being a kid and I said to my dad, I go, "Pa, we need a Christmas tree." He goes, "What do you mean? There's nothing wrong with that fucking tree." Mind you, the tree, we've had the tree since before I was born. I go, the whole base is like destroyed. He goes, "Go downstairs." He goes, "Remember those 2x4s we picked up on the side of the road a couple years back?" He goes, "Go get them. Maybe in the backyard." My father built a base to a Christmas tree out of 2x4s. He pitched them. I mean, the whole 9. I think they still got the fucking tree. You know what I mean? He's like, "I'm not here to buy a new tree. What do you think? We're made of money?" He built one out of 2x4s, and we had the tree for the rest of my childhood.
Same quarter, same base.
Now you know what to get him for Christmas.
Yeah, right.
It's the new Christmas tree.
He'd probably be pissed off I spent money on it.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with the one I had. What you got me this shit for?
Either that or try to go hawk it and make some money off of it. But so you come along, you learn this work ethic, and where'd you grow up?
So my parents lived in North Bergen, but most Cuban kids grow up with their grandparents because parents are always working. You know what I mean? My mom still to this day works way more than she should. So you know, I'd go to school, I'd get out of school, I'd go to my grandma's house. So I had my own room in my grandma's house. Like, I pretty much grew up in Union City.
Yeah.
And then, as I progressively became more of a dickhead, I would travel further and further into Jersey City.
Not easy streets.
No, definitely not.
So you mentioned on something right there. As you became more of a self-proclaimed dickhead.
Yeah.
How did it start?
Started at 12. So I don't know. I always felt like I was a kid that never really fit in. Like, I tried to play sports, but it wasn't really my thing. I wasn't really that good at any sports. And one day I went to Burger King with my best friend. We're sitting down at Burger King. We're eating a couple blocks away from my mom's job. And what we call a fiend, right? Somebody who's drugged up comes in, sits in the booth across from us, tells me, "Yo, give me your money." I said, I don't have no money. He pulls out a Glock, puts it on the table, tells me, "Give me your money, I'm gonna blow your fucking brains out." You know, I'm 12 years old. I never seen a gun up close. Now I got one in my face. And I remember pulling my pockets out. I'm like, dude, I don't have no money. Like, he's like, all right, so you're coming with me. At that time, there's a main strip, and it runs pretty much through most of Hudson County, comes all the way from North Bergen, West New York, Union City, all the way down to Jersey City. It's called Bergen Line, right? This is probably millions of people that walk Bergen Line every day. Very populated street. So there's no houses on Bergen Line. It's all stores. For 90 blocks, all stores. So there's a Radio Shack across the street. No, that's throwback.
That's all right.
There was a Radio Shack across the street, so he's like, come with me. So he goes, I'm going to go in there. I'm going to stick this place up, and you guys are going to grab whatever you can, right? Because this guy's just trying to get his fix. He's just trying to get high. So me and my best friend, we gave each other a look. He goes in, nobody move. We take off running. The fuck are we going to, you know what I mean? So we take off running, and it's funny, right? Because trauma affects people in different ways. Because that's still my best friend to this day. We never spoke about that again. I brought it up to him recently, a couple weeks back. I said to him, yo, you remember that day in Burger King? He's like, what day? To him, it was like, you know what I mean? Like, he kind of like brushed it off. It is what it is. To me, that was a pivotal point in my life, because I said, yo, I'll never be a victim again. I know what it's like to feel like a victim, and I never want to feel that way again. I never want to feel hopeless like that again.
Well, that's it. You feel hopeless, helpless, like you have no control.
Right.
And that's an awful feeling to have, because I think everybody's been around where they feel like they have no control. How did it present itself in your newfound life post stick up?
Well, now once that happened, I was like, all right, cool, strap up. Next person that pulls a gun on me better fucking kill me. You know what I mean? And that just became my mentality. It was like, I'd rather go to jail for killing somebody than just get killed and not be able to do nothing, right? So I started carrying knives, guns, like anything I could get my hands on, right? And then